The Avalaunch transmission starts now.
All right. We are back once again. Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Doing
good.
good,
How
doing
you?
great.
Good. Well, today we have someone who started out as a special guest and now is a regular here on the Avalaunch channel, talking about uh, BFG, esports, MOBAs, and the evolution and the future of GameFi. Theeban 1437 Siva. Pleasure as always. And we also have Zach, known by some as Trading Aloha on Twitter. Zach is Avalaunch's GameFi analyst, content producer, and all things gaming. And is a really cool presence in the space, and is always providing a lot of useful value and content for folks trying to understand this stuff better. So it's been great to have him along for the Avalaunch ride, but also just have someone and people like him in the space as general. So thanks for joining us, guys. Um, Today, we've been doing a bunch of these, and we try and focus them a little bit on specific topics, to hopefully generate kind of like interesting conversations. And today we're just going to be talking about the state of the nation, the state of things, GameFi, kind of where we're at, and with Battle for Geostone and other games like it, where we anticipate things going in, let's just say, the next year, and how we expect things to fundamentally change, hopefully for the better. And I think that from that angle, there's a lot, kind of a lot to cover. Um, so just kind of like getting into it. Zach, I think I'll start with you, and maybe kind of like put you on the spot here a little bit. Just generally speaking, having observed Web3 gaming for the past, I don't know, 9 months, year, sort of what's been your, like, how would you characterize your general impression of where things are at right now? How have you seen this thing start and evolve to this point, and like, just what's your general take on it?
Yeah. So first off, thanks for bringing me on, and great to be on with both of you. For GameFi, it's hard to even kind of express how early we are still in the GameFi space. I mean, it feels like we've been doing this for years now, but really, I mean, GameFi as a whole, as far as the crypto sphere goes, has only been around for less than about 12 months or so. So we're really still in that infancy, early adoption phase, where we've seen almost a complete cycle from starting to take off to just games dropping every week that were really just skins on over a DeFi platform that didn't take much skill. It was kind of like a set and forget. They're botable. People were just trying to make a ton of money and do it quickly, and then the market crashed, and every GameFi took it on the chin. And I don't think it's fair to GameFi as a whole to really classify what we saw as what GameFi is going to become in the end of 22 and 23. I think we're starting to see that shift now into away from kind of the play to earn, like focus on income and trying to make a ton of money, to a play and earn, where we get back to the traditional sense of gaming, where it's focused on enjoying a game and playing and having fun and building a community, and also just being able to experience an actual fun game that takes some level of skill, that involves like actually playing, as opposed to just setting it into a spreadsheet and figuring out what the most biggest return on your investment can be is quick. So I think seeing that shift into actual gaming, I think we're starting to see what GameFi is actually supposed to be, as opposed to kind of a mislabeled 2021 term of GameFi, which was really just DeFi plus, I guess.
Uh-huh.
I like the term GameFi to be tagged to these projects coming out now this year and into next year as the actual start of GameFi, because I think that should be the standard, not what was in 2021.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, interesting, and it's definitely like worth pointing out that like this stuff's new and changing quickly. And Theeban, like I think you have a kind of a unique perspective, like having been so deeply involved in gaming for so many years, and then kind of making a transition into Web3 gaming. I think your perspective is unique. So I kind of wonder the same for you, like as someone who came from Web 2, like into Web 3, and then like really engaged it in a big way. Um, maybe you could kind of talk about your like overall impression of where things are at as well. Like
Hmm.
how do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with mostly everything Zach said. I think he made some really great points. I would say 2020, like 21, during the summer with the big boom with Axie and all this gaming stuff. Uh, I feel like at that time, GameFi was shilled in the wrong way. It was shilled as like this thing where, oh, come and play this, you're gonna make money. So like you had all these people coming in and putting their money into something, and at the end getting burned because when the investors stopped coming in, the money stopped coming into the pockets of the people as well. Where now it's like after this recent market crash, people have realized that you can't be bringing in the wrong people into your communities and into your games. So you have to let the natural growth occur for you to have that sustainable economy. So we saw that, as Axie being the prime example, right? We just saw this
Right.
token that's inflationary token just skyrocket like crazy. SLP, I think it went as high as 40 cents or something, and now it's sitting at like 0.003 or
Yeah,
something of that
crazy.
nature, which is still great for like the people who are playing the game. They still make a little bit out of it and whatnot, but this was all because of the way that the narrative was placed back in the summer, and no one really thought, not, I wouldn't say no one, there's obviously a few people who might have foreseen it already, but most of the people didn't really think that it was going to cause any harm, or it was just like this whole like euphoric moment for everyone, and then you saw what happened. So now all these games are like learning from these mistakes, learning what to do to become a sustainable economy and something that can last for 5, 10, 15 years into the future from the mistakes of their predecessors, whoever has already built a game during last summer.
Right, right. Yeah, and I largely agree with like everything that you guys have said here, and I've talked about this kind of a little bit, but the way gaming came into crypto was just a little unusual, in that it wasn't kind of initially about like an experience for the player. It was just kind of this way to interact with yield and stuff and crypto, and it did move past that, pretty somewhat quickly, but it's just kind of what it took, I think, to get people's attention. And the side effect of that was, like you guys are saying, some really unrealistic expectations on the side of the community, and then the burden on the side of the developer to like reproduce this thing that it seemed like everyone wanted in the community. Um, but with that awareness, drew in people that were more excited about actually building games and player driven experiences, and not so overly concerned with the insane APYs and the numbers, like inspired, I think, by rewarding players, and the way that they could share value, and value could be transferred around the system. I mean, that was happening with things like Axie, but where we're at now, I think, is just is kind of a blend of how things started, and then more and more people who are really who have kind of glimpsed the potential of this stuff and are just now taking the time to, because obviously it takes time to build these things, um, to to start to design and build and work toward a more, not just a more like kind of sustainable vision for these games, but but real games. And we're sort of eh, in the very very beginning stages of that. And again, and it takes time. So I think it's like a really exciting point where people have witnessed that there was like a market fit for web games, and the things that made them popular to some aren't necessarily things that can stick around forever. But on the brighter side of that, those things aren't getting thrown out the window. They're just being thought about by people who are more experienced with just generally, kind of building more durable, durable sort of game experiences. I think. We also have things like new technologies like coming down the pike that will fundamentally change things. Obviously, we have Avalanche subnets, right, which will offer new ways to think about game architecture and game economies, and offer potentially new mechanics, and like kind of anyone's guess sort of what happens with that. So again, I think we're at the precipice of this like really exciting time where you have the right people starting to think about things in the right ways, and community especially is hungry for better games. That's also, I think, the thing that's changed is like real gamers have been drawn into this space, and they want and expect good games. So there's like this nice natural fit of gamers who want good games, developers and designers who want to build good experiences, and now it's just kind of a matter of time before these things
Yeah.
start to materialize. Um, Zach, you and I had spoken about like a transition away from like the play to earn thing, like we were just talking about, and more of like a play and earn philosophy. And I think that can look a lot of different ways. I mean, and that can be interpreted in different ways. But one of the things that you had mentioned is just the way that players are rewarded in these games, and it's not just, hey, because you're playing, you're getting everything, right. And so, like with a game like Battle for Geostone, for example, it's a skill based game, and so not everyone is going to have the same capacity to earn, right, because not everyone is at the same skill level. And I think this is, one of the ways you can start to solve that problem that everyone is well aware of just these kind of mindless emissions that totally dilute supply. Well, if you tie it to something else besides an arbitrary number, like skill, you start to I think go a long way in resolving some of these things. So, and that's just kind of one example. So, uh, Theeban, maybe you could kind of talk a little bit about um, like Battle for Geostone and how this is uh, an esport tournament driven experience, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
and how that might tie into the value a player could expect to extract from the experience, um, and how they might need to change their thinking around what earning looks like in games.
Right. Well, let me start by describing Battle for Geostone a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah.
it's a MOBA game. One of the reasons why MOBA games have been so popular this long is because it's probably the most, if not the hardest game to ever master. The way that I describe mobile games to a person who doesn't even understand what that means is like, think of chess, and instead of controlling this entire chessboard, you're one of the pieces, but instead of making one move every turn, you have an option of 1,000 different moves every second, and and each of those moves need to be in cohesion with your 4 other teammates
Right.
at the same time. So the complexity of the game is beyond measure.
Right.
Even though you can jump into the game and you can just play, even if you don't know what you're doing, you can still win the game. As long as you're playing against someone of your equal skill level. And as your knowledge evolves and you learn more, you get better, then you can increase your chances of winning. So
Right.
just because of that, the complexity is so high. It's just like sports, right? You watch like football, you watch basketball. There's like these guys have talent, but at the same time, talent is not enough. You need like certain level of that game IQ to get you to this level of gameplay. And then there's people who watch these people play because of how awesome it is to like watch the highest level of gameplay as something that is so difficult to
Right.
achieve.
Yeah.
So in Battle for Geostone, being a mobile game, our goal was to design something that anybody can just pick up and play, right? But the way that you reach the ceiling of the game is like almost impossible, because there's always something new to learn, based off of like just the idea of MOBA, but also our game design with how the skills, how the heroes and everything function. And then on top of that, because how complex it is, we're going to have a natural viewership just to, like, let's say, learn how to get better by watching better players, or just watch the competition itself, because the players at the top are going to be like these incredibly talented, smart individuals with crazy strategies, and the way that our abilities and stuff look in the game as well is very pleasing to be able to watch, and going to be quite easy to follow, as long as you're someone who does play the game or understands the game. Just like sports, right? Like if you're a new person watching basketball or something, you might not know why someone's doing certain things, but you watch enough, you're going to understand what's going on.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's huge, because it opens up like that whole other avenue that we just haven't seen, GameFi explore yet, and that's both, on the esports side, and even just the casual player who wants to stream and has a large viewership, that puts out more exposure to people that generally wouldn't, either know about it or even have a chance to play it, and then having the guys offering the free to play model to start. I mean, anyone, they can just pick it up and start playing,
Yep.
and then they naturally transition potentially into minting an NFT or forging one. And the onboarding process seems much easier than in the years past, where there wasn't a whole lot of information out there besides maybe a YouTube video with like 1 or 2 views, and it just opened it up to scams. But now you're having like actual well-known people, putting actual content, streaming, and it just helps onboard a lot more users more efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
And how much do you guys think that um, Web3 gaming like relies on something like esports and tournaments becoming commonplace, right? Because you can have like single player experiences, like a totally different kind of game. But I think a lot of people feel like the adoption of esports and actual competitive games that are fun to watch and can support tournaments is like a really important step for the industry and kind of like adoption. And so like I'm wondering like how big you think that is. Like, is this just kind of one of many, or do you feel like once this happens, it's going to be like a huge shift?
Mm-hmm. I guess I'll start with this one, if that's all right, Zach.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
personally, having been in esports and the gaming world for like 15 years now, I think esports is what puts you on, or makes you capable of being one of the top games. Um, there's a lot of other games that are not competitive, that just have like, like say Candy Crush, for example, right? A bunch of mobile games, and they have their stuff going, but they are never gonna be like the best game in the world that has like the most amount of viewership, most amount of player base, and all of that stuff, like Dota, League of Legends, CS:GO, and all these other things. Apart from those, I think the closest thing that comes to it without like some kind of a real legitimate esports scene is maybe like World of Warcraft, right? That's kind of like this MMORPG where you just sink like endless hours into it. That's like
Yeah.
a whole nother story, and I'm not a huge fan of games like that. But I think like esports and allows you to open up um, the like who can come into the game, how you can onboard players, how people can learn from better players, how they like the content just kind of like creates itself, sort of say, instead of having to like rely on content creators to go out and do something, make something to keep on getting your game going. Because I do firmly believe, especially having been a content creator, how important they are as well to like the
Right.
growth of a game. If that stuff is not like, if there's not an abundance of that, let's say
Yeah.
on YouTube or Twitch or whatever it is, I feel like the growth of your game is always going to be stunted.
Yeah, and I think that helps lend the staying power to the games too. Because I mean, we've seen like games like CS:GO. I mean, it's been around since what 2012. I mean, the community just keeps continuing to grow and grow and grow, and onboard new players that stick around. And as the game is more successful in doing that, then it's just going to have that much more like staying power within the community. And as a first mover in the space, I think CS:GO did a great job kind of putting that together. And I think we're kind of looking at that as Web3 gaming starts to take off in GameFi. Is like we've got these games coming out now are really setting the stage for that to happen, and could be that long-term CS:GO like GameFi option.
So I'll add something more to that. Is in GameFi, what's important is to, or at least what I feel like is one of the things that's important, is to extract less from your own player base and try to find some ways to give like back to the community and find value. And I think esports kind of allows that as well, with let's say sponsorships, ad revenue, and all of that. You can do all these things. You can put it up on your website, on your tournaments. We can have like one of our maps literally be, let's say, Mercedes or something,
Yeah.
right? You can have a giant logo on it, and you got maybe a million people, whatever amount of people watching our world championship. You're gonna have that there. Like, we have the ability to be able to control all of that, and we can use that funds, that money, whatever it is, a portion of it, into giving back to our ecosystem. So you're not just extracting from the players.
Yeah, I wonder, you know, like I've always felt like, with traditional gaming, whether it's like MOBAs or, whatever, any game, the status quo has always been the player, buys the game from the developer and you pay for that experience and, you get value from, your enjoyment of it. And with other types of games, in-app purchases and gear and whatever, you might even end up spending a lot more than that. And so, if you look at like business as usual, it's player plays developer and sometimes a lot of it, and everyone's cool with that, right?
Yeah.
And with Web3 games, at least in the beginning, it was like if the yield wasn't there, it was like, hey, this isn't worth anything, right? So fundamentally, just so misaligned. And so when I think about uh, new types of designs and economies, which I think everyone agrees are necessary, that inherently, because they have to, maybe reward less or reward fewer. Like do you think there will be like um, as we see these games kind of come out, like push back in this way, like this isn't enough, because to me it's like anything over, hey, I pay you and that's all that happens is a huge improvement. But crypto folks get a little wonky sometimes.
Mhm.
So would you guys anticipate like any kind of pushback, like, hey, this just isn't good enough, even though you look at other industries and it's like you get zero. You guys ever wonder that the it's not attractive enough?
I think it wasn't attractive enough just because the games weren't attractive enough. I mean, there wasn't really anything to play and be competitive and have a community that wasn't aimed at solely making as much money as possible in the quickest amount of time. I think now that we're starting to see that shift into, games that are fun to play, that take some skill, that take some time, that have a community that's focused on, the game being engaging, fun to play, and difficult and complex, will naturally lend, actual gamers to come into the space as opposed to, people that are just in it to make as much money as possible. And I think once we can finally move past that and into that stage of GameFi, then we'll really start seeing adoption and games that take off as far as usability and popularity, not necessarily in yield. It's nice to earn a little bit on the side, sure, but
Right.
no one expects to make $10,000 a month playing. But you also at the same time have that that esports tournament level ceiling that you can strive to if that's your goal. And then by doing that, you learn how to play, engage with the community, watch the streams, watch the tournaments, which then naturally like leads itself into, growing the player base.
Yeah, that makes sense. Steven, what do you think?
There's a lot of few questions in there. So where do you want to start? Because I had a lot in my mind and I was going through it, so I got kind of lost with it.
Well, you can kind of start wherever you want, but I actually think like it's a kind of a particularly relevant question for you because you're responsible for a lot of the balancing or all of the balancing, right? That's happening in BFG. So you're thinking a lot about like the thresholds of where is this too hard, where is this too easy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so that applies to the actual mechanics and experience of playing the game. But I think you could also like make the argument that balancing now also applies to the value and the mission and reward, right? Is this enough? Is this not enough? Does this amount of time and work justify or not the reward, right? So I'm just like wondering, even though it seems like kind of a silly question because normally people get nothing, do you worry or wonder, or how are you dealing with the reality that as Web3 games pull back because they have to, because the earlier way doesn't make any sense, that all of a sudden this isn't like attractive enough? Or how do you manage that?
So are you asking me like how do you manage like your game being attractive enough versus Web 2 or versus Web 3 other games as well?
I guess both. I mean,
Okay.
I hadn't considered the Web 2, but I think it's an interesting like question.
Right. There was a lot to unpack there.
Unpack it.
First, I'll start with the first thing that you talked about, which was about how you spend money on a game. Like let's say you pay one time, you have access to this game, and then you can play it, right? I think that model was really like good for the past 20 years, whatever it was. And the reason why I think that changes now is because actually maybe the past 10 years has already changed with the free to play model, right? Coming from Dota and coming from League of Legends, and at some point CSGO also made themselves free to play, although you had to buy them at first. It's because you just want the people to play your game. You want the player liquidity, which is like something so valuable that people don't really understand quite well yet how valuable that is. And then those players will naturally spend their money if they spend enough time in it, right? This whole idea of paying one time for a game and then that's it, I feel like you kind of bottleneck yourself in like the scaling ability of your game and what you can do, because now there's this entry price, and then like if there's something interesting about web 3 where like you have this entry price and sometimes you're like doing as much as you can to try to get that money back, and that's kind of like a negative cycle that I don't really like, and don't want to see that happening. But it's something like that kind of inevitably happens when you have to buy something and then you're in it for the return on your investment thing. So Web 2, like those games that do stuff where you just pay one time, I feel like they're gonna die out eventually. But for now, they're gonna keep on going because it works for them, and they're okay with that, right? They're okay with making 50 million or whatever million they want to make, where the potential could be like $1 billion if they had a different kind of business model. So in terms of Web3 and our game and sustainable economy and like how to see if it's enough or not, it really honestly boils down to if the game is fun to play and if it's fun to watch. Honestly, like that's literally all that boils down to. Everything else, we have a firm belief that it'll all play out the way that it should be, especially as we have learned from the mistakes of all the other games that have come before us, how we've built our economy, how we've want to reward our community as well. You talked about how, like, okay, should we be, should the rewards be decreased to have a sustainable economy, or what's the plan is here, or is it just better to not have like you said, like a player making $10,000 a month or something? I think it's completely fine if a player makes $10,000 a month. The only point is you want the tokens, you want the money, or if you want to call it money, to go to the right hands. That's what's more important. Okay, so this whole idea, like, I come from Axie. In Axie, what happened was the scholarship model was attracting people to come into the game and play purely to extract.
Right.
So that crashed the entire market. Now, if you're rewarding, let's say, the top players who are actually providing incredible amount of value to your game by either streaming, creating content, being at the top, just being someone that other players look up to and watch and want to learn from, right? Like, these are the guys who are going to be in your ecosystem for a long time, and the likely chance that they're there only purely to extract is very unlikely, right? When you play a game that you enjoy and you're in it, you're more likely to spend more on the game than you are actually getting back from the game. Okay, so with that in mind, our goal is to reward our players. We really want to give back to our community, but we're going to give back in the right places. So maybe that might be a little bit more top heavy, but at the same time, if we do make it top heavy, there's going to be other stuff in the game for other players to be able to do. For example, like providing player liquidity, providing hero liquidity. Those are all going to be very important stuff in the game. Top players in our game will not be able to be at the top without getting the right heroes that they want that fits their playstyle. And where they're going to get the right heroes that they want to fit their playstyle, it's going to come from all the other players that are going to be in our community playing to, accumulate their tokens to be able to craft heroes that they might think is good. Maybe they get lucky, they get something really good, they go put it on the marketplace, the top player gets it. The whole ecosystem is going to be well balanced in that way, depending on, okay, where are we going to put this stuff. If we put this stuff there, okay, how we're going to make these people here happy. It's going to have its like proper balance. If that makes sense, guys. Sorry if I because I went kind of fast there.
No, man, it makes total and complete sense. I think is a great answer. Yeah, I've heard people talking about like different ways to sort of deal with this, and like one of the concepts I found interesting is like, you can't get around the idea that this is crypto and there will be speculators in the game, right? And so when you're designing these games, it's potentially useful to not like pretend that there won't be spectators, and figure out ways to characterize and classify really someone there that is just there to spectate on the token, because you'll never get rid of that entirely as you might any other player. So in any game, like maybe someone likes, I'm gonna make this up, but like maybe someone's like more into crafting, maybe someone's more into like exploring, maybe someone's more into like battling. right? And the economies of the game are like tweaked in different ways to account for these different play styles.
Yeah.
So if you just sort of consider a passive speculator, a play style, right? You know, I think there's probably interesting things that can come of that model, right? Because again, you're never going to remove them entirely. So if you just accept that they're there and work them into the system, um, instead of just being like there shouldn't be speculators and only real players, like that's not realistic, right? So I think the best way to actually deal with that is to account for it. And let's see, this guy says the way to get rid of speculators is to make the in-game items NFTs, and the NFTs are the only tokens that matter. I'm not sure I understand that, but appreciate the thought and contribution.
Yeah, well, I think BFG tries to do that with the way that they have the NFTs to stake to passively earn, which then you can get those yields higher, from my understanding, by
Right.
buying on the marketplace in-game drops that can only be obtained through playing. So you have that active participation between the passive investor and the active player, which you don't see in a lot of the speculating models in other games.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say that, like, in our game, we're gonna have something for almost every type of gamer, and even people who don't like to play. There's gonna be viewers, for example, like I said before, Dota and League of Legends. These are the most watched games, and there's a statistic that most of the people who watch it don't even play the game anymore. At some point, they might have played it, but they don't play it at all anymore.
Huh.
So we're gonna have the esports for the watching. We got the we got this like kind of like staking thing for the whales, right? They're gonna have a great time with that. They're also going to be able to buy very specific rare items that are only going to be able to be minted during this short time frame, and they're not going to be easy to acquire. We got like players at lower levels who are going to be able to provide hero liquidity or get player liquidity, and they're going to be rewarded handsomely for being able to get something that other people would want. We also have a forum. So in our forum, there's like NFT integration into it, so you can like customize your avatar or whatever to whichever NFT that you want, and then you can customize a lot of different things on that forum. That's where we're going to mainly be having most of our communication with players from our ecosystem. And there's also going to be rewards for participating in our ecosystem and in our in our economy, in our community. And those people, I really believe and suspect that we're going to have a lot of individuals who are not going to be playing the game, who are just going to want to go talk. Like nowadays, you have Reddit, you have Twitter, you have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have TikTok, all this stuff, all these different platforms that kind of just divide your community, right? So they don't all come together, and you don't always get all the ideas. Like using actually for that example, because I'm a pro player there. There's like Twitter, there's Facebook, there's Discord, and most of the stuff that gets talked about happens on Twitter. So the people in Facebook, the people sometimes on Discord feel very much left out because of that. So now we have this forum, our own forum, where anything and everything that is related to BFG and anything else that's like in the BFG ecosystem is gonna be on that forum, that you're gonna be able to interact, understand everything that happens, chat, and so on. So there's gonna be people who I believe are gonna be there to like help others answer questions and all this and that itself is like a game, So everything I've mentioned so far is like some kind of a game for everybody. So we're just trying to GameFi everything, anything and everything that you can possibly think of, so that everyone has something to do in BFG.
Yeah, and there's definitely some pretty novel um, economic balancing mechanisms, I guess you would say, in BFG that I haven't seen elsewhere. And we're actually going to be at some point in the future uh, doing one of these, probably just to talk about that stuff specifically, so people can have a deeper understanding of the BFG in-game economy and the way it's going about like solving some of these problems. But it is quite unique and quite ripe for experimentation. But yeah, I think you guys are sort of absolutely approaching it in the right way, which is like accounting for everyone, having something for everyone. Like if someone is not considered, like there's a gap, and when there's a gap, like something weird is going to naturally kind of end up filling it. I think if that makes any sense. Um, so do you? I also like wonder like, do you think like more and more traditional like Web 2 players, people that are like only used to playing like League of Legends and Dota and uh, like do you think at some point we'll see some kind of like migration of these players over? Do you think we need to, or do you think it's possible that crypto kind of just grows its own unique user base?
Well, I think a little bit of both. I think, there's such a small number of people that are, already in crypto as opposed to the general public. And then you
Yeah.
make that even smaller when you look at, a subset of GameFi that sure it can survive and potentially thrive by itself. But, once you start opening that door to people that aren't exposed, and that's through various means of streaming and esports and other means, I think that you're naturally going to see some of those players kind of move over on their own, which I think ultimately is going to be needed long term to keep the community growing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I agree with that. It's going to be a little bit of both. I think in the short term, it's going to be mostly Web3 creating its own like community. But in the long term, I do believe in the migration, because the model, the game model, and everything is just so much superior than what like Web3 is so much superior than what Web2 has. Like
Yeah.
player owned assets is the most attractive thing to me. Like as a player who's been 15 years in the Web2 gaming world, like that's just the best thing I can imagine happening. Like if I from 15 years ago, if we had player owned assets and I could do something with it and realize that it's worth like actual real money, I don't know. I'm like many multi-millionaire by now, like it's a whole nother story. So like just because of, I would be handsomely rewarded for all of my talents instead of, just being slightly rewarded through being a
Hmm.
pro player. So just because of that, I feel like eventually we will have that great migration, but it's just not like anytime soon. Obviously, I would love it if it's anytime soon, but at the same time, we don't want it to be anytime soon because it's not ready. GameFi is just straight up not ready for that migration. And if you onboard too many people too quickly, and when you're not ready, it's more likely something is going to go wrong and you're going to crash because of it. So you want to have that, like steady transition as, everything develops. Maybe a year from now, we're already, primed for a few of those people coming in. And then on the second year, it's like, you're primed for thousands and thousands of people coming in. And by the third year, you're just like, there, you're ready. Everything is in, your ecosystem is steady. And even if you have like a million people coming in, it's not going to change much with your ecosystem, but it's gonna provide you with all these new player base and whatnot.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah, there's a someone on our team. His name's Jules, and he works on like a lot of our like technology strategy and things of this nature. But is also a big gamer, and he'll probably come on when we talk about the game economy. But like he made like a point once that like always kind of stuck with me, and it's similar to what you're saying now, where it like he thinks, and I guess I would agree with him that like you'll get to this point in like in Web3 gaming where these things will be so the value and the ownership will be so well integrated and will be such a integral compelling part of these experiences that games without them will just feel like they're missing something, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah.
you'll get to that point. When, you know, who knows, but like it's that kind of stuff, like that kind of aha thing, like, oh shit, like I think he's right, like that makes me so bullish on crypto gaming. Like it's like it's I don't know, when you start to think about it, it's like how could you not be. um it's just it really is just the question of time, and it could be a long time, you know, who knows. But when you're talking about trends for the next 6 months, 12 months, like what I can definitively say is, you know, from my experience through Avalaunch and the projects that we're currently working with that have kind of yet to launch or come out of stealth or whatever. You know, there's a lot of major game developers who, you know, forever built games for not Web 2 necessarily, but, you know, PC, console, and, you know, and a lot of them are shifting their energies and their budgets to Web 3 because they, you know, they also kind of see the potential. So I think there's reason to believe that you know, it's not going to be tomorrow, but there's a lot of energy behind this, and like when you look at what's getting funded, particularly right now in like this market, which is not awesome, you know, maybe it's less titles and, you know, games and things like that, but the infrastructure and the platforms and the tooling around Web3 gaming, like this stuff is still being funded in a big way, and there's millions and millions of dollars kind of flowing into this stuff. So there's no shortage of money and thinking and people willing to build here. Now, this doesn't guarantee or mean anything, you know, necessarily, except the obvious fact that like there's momentum and it kind of energy here. Um, but we actually do have some Battle for Geostone like gameplay footage.
Okay.
It's you know, it's I think it was recorded like 2 weeks ago or something, and even at this point, you guys you guys are moving so fast that like it's even like a little outdated at this point, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But go ahead.
All right. Let's see it.
Yeah, but
Yeah, definitely.
since you're here and we have it, we might as well talk about it.
Yeah.
I think the
Mm.
clip's like 8 or 10 minutes long. We won't watch the whole thing. But I thought it would be cool to kind of show people the game and have you, since we have you here, like what a cool opportunity to just kind of hear you talk about it a
Yeah.
little bit,
Sure.
whatever. So I'll just let me. I think I gotta close down this chat here. Sorry about that, guys. Let's see. And I will load this up. Yeah, just feel free to freeform it, man. I'm gonna turn down the sound on this a little bit.
Yeah, so this was actually part of like I believe the tournament that we had a couple weeks back, or between two teams, two groups. Actually, this one is with our team players there. There's a lot of change that has happened since then. Like we've changed, we've added more abilities as well. You can see like there's a shrine over there. It's like a little team fight that is occurring. Most of the heroes in the game right now, they're actually all naked. As in like they don't have their body abilities, so like each ability is associated with one of their body parts, like let's say their legs, their arms, their chest, their head. So we haven't added those into the game here. So you can see right now that's actually our melee assassin chasing down the ranged wizard. into the tower here. It's gonna take some hits. But yeah, like you got the tower, you got the creeps, you know, this map, everything. These are all like our own assets. There are some other assets that were just like bought and added, but I would say like 90% of the stuff were made all by our team, and we have
Crazy.
a lot more to like change and improve on and such. So by the end of September, I'd say like we would have we're looking to have our open alpha, or it's in Q4. You know, early end of September, we're trying to get like at least 40 abilities into the game. You know, be able to add those body parts as well, so maybe it's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, and get the game a bit more polished. But for now, our main focus has been on creating a bug-free game where you can go out, you can play, you can fight, and we can like get some feedback. We can test other people's computers, PCs, to see like what kind of specs they need to be able to run our game as well. Just collecting as much data as we can with the current players that we have invited to play so far. We actually had a tournament. I can't remember if it was last week. I think it was last week. Yeah,
it was.
We had a 8-team tournament. We had like I think 20 teams or something sign up to be able to just play, and we're only in like our early alpha stages at the moment.
Very, very cool. So like, so like, kind of tell us like what we're looking at here. Obviously, like this isn't like the full, final, polished like version.
Right,
of the
right.
game.
So this is a 5v5 game. Obviously, you know, you got the creeps in the middle, the ones that are running around, jumping around. Those are the heroes. You can see there was an earth crash that propelled the hero forward. So it's a battle arena, right? So the main goal, like most of the time, what people have most fun with is trying to kill your opponent, even though the main objective of the game is to destroy your opponent's buildings and destroy their base. People just love the fighting ability in the game. So that's what you're currently looking at. Is just, you know, people running around the map trying to chase down other heroes and just like trying to outplay one another essentially. So you saw an ability there that actually lets you block damage. So when when you have like these big ultimates coming at you, you have ways to be able to block the damage, stop your base from happening. Right there, that's like kind of like a time-lapse ability where you can go back in time for like 2 seconds and heal, or go back to the HP that you were previously at. So we saw for a moment there, you know, one of the heroes' HP just like shot up out of nowhere. So there's a lot of like intricate stuff already in the game that you can do. So most of the players who play the game, they had lots of fun being able to outplay stuff. Right there, we saw like a disintegrate come out, which is like this huge damage ability, and the other player blocked it with their spell block. So they took like 0 damage from it when it actually landed on them. So that's like something, you know, a bit more higher skilled than you would see from a player who just started playing the game, for example.
Right. And in terms of like these little the actual like UI elements at the top, like this is still like yet to be like fully like polished, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. These are just like our alpha stuff. We just want to be able to have the working game first, so we can be testing stuff while you know, we have all the art and the UI and everything being produced in the meantime, because you know, we want to be working parallel to all these things. We don't want to just like be stuck making one thing at a time and slow down our progression.
Right. And so, I mean, I expect you to say say good things here, but like, you know, as someone that's played these games like competitively, like maybe even just like personally, like how cool is it for you to like have created your own game and your own experience, and how does it feel to play it, and like, you know, what's that like for you?
I mean, we have a large team. Everybody has like a huge part in everything that happens in this game, and I'm just super stoked and happy to be a part of all of that and have such a big hand in it. I just like love seeing my vision come to life, essentially. So right here, there's actually an objective on the map. Once you kill this dragon, you get a stone that actually buffs up your team in some way, depending on which stone that you've gotten. And this is what actually helps you be able to end the game. So there's like all these, you know, different parts on the map that you need to be at different points in time to be able to accumulate the advantages that is necessary for you to close out a game and stuff. So that's what we were saying there. But yeah, I think I'm super stoked, man. Like this is just incredible. Like I was in Dota. There's so many things about Dota that I didn't like, that I would have liked seeing changes. And while making this game, or like providing feedback, being able to fix all the stuff, is just so fast. Like how quickly, you know, the team is able to just get on top of everything and see the vision come to life.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's like important for people to realize that like the development of this game is quite far along. You know, this isn't, you know, you're not, you know, raising money right now to go out and start building about it, and start thinking about it. Like you guys, you guys have been building this for a long time.
Oh yeah,
with your own money, you know, which I think says a lot. And you've been like having your buddies, like your other professional players, kind of play test with you and give feedback, and like what's kind of their general impression of the game so far?
Most of them love seeing, like, you know, our progression in every like build. You should have seen the first build that I had. I was already showing them that. They were like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then if they were like to see again the current build, it's like, what? This looks like a completely different game, because of like how amazing, you know, it is from the time that, you know, we started out with this. So they're all stoked for it. They're looking forward to playing it. You know, once we have most of the stuff polished and have more abilities in the game and such, we already have like a line of people who want to play, just because they are huge MOBA fans, and they've been waiting for something like this to come in to the ecosystem, like the Web3 ecosystem, because it just doesn't exist, you know. And something of like that rewards skill, especially, like that's something that people have been missing. And I'm like really excited to be able to have my friends play.
Well, there you go. We actually made it through the whole clip there. All right, right on. Super cool. It's awesome to be able to check that out with you here, Zach. Zach, I actually don't know. Like, are you a big MOBA player, or do you play other types of games for the most part?
So I'm mostly dabble in a lot of the other games, but I've played MOBAs in the past. I played Dota 2. I played a lot of Counter Strike. I played as like a beginner, I would say. Most of I've done the World of Warcraft. Time sucked for months and months and months, and you know, that was all right. It was fun. But in general, I just like trying them out, playing them, and I'll go back to the ones that are just fun to play and have like I would strive to be, you know, good at the game, so, you know, I continue on that track. So I imagine as soon as it comes out, I'll be playing. I'm ready to roll. I've been looking for a game in the GameFi space, especially if it's on AVAC, even better, to get involved with and have a great time playing. And this is right up my alley.
Yeah. I think this is gonna rock people's worlds, man.
Yeah.
I don't think they're ready for it.
This is not an idea that we're talking about here. This is something that's like already happening, and you know, we're gonna be like we just want to complete our game, you know. Like once this is done, like that's it. People will see how amazing it really is, because at the end of the day, me, my team, like we're all gamers first. Like that's the most important thing. We're not really looking to, you know, siphon from our community or something like that. We just want something that everybody will have fun playing, and that's what makes us feel good at the end of the day. So it's going to be really exciting to be able to let everybody be able to play, try, hear their feedback, be able to improve the game and everything. And we're really quick on being able to make those adjustments and changes happen.
Yeah, I love it. I love the combination of so many different like traits and heroes that you can put together with 72. I think it's 72 traits. That's the part I love. Is just like building and seeing which one works the best and finding a play style that works for me to have fun. And I think a lot of people are the same way.
Yeah,
exactly. Oh, there's one more thing. I don't know. I always want to tell this on stream, but I always forget if I'm allowed to or not. But we have something super cool, like that's gonna blow people's minds once we've implemented it, or once I get a chance to actually speak about it. This is an idea that I had to add on to the whole MOBA, gameplay that I
Uh-huh.
feel like has been missing in MOBAs for like all these years, and I have no idea why nobody else even had the balls to be able to do it. But we are gonna do it, and it's gonna be super fun. Where I feel like players are gonna have this new element to the game, to MOBA, that like they just never seen before. That's going to like make them even more excited to be able to play game after game. It
Yeah.
just Yeah, I hope to be able to. Maybe I can tell you after the stream ends. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to know, and
Yeah, I do too.
yeah. So we'll hang on for a minute. Don't log off when we end it. But yeah, I can't wait for you to be able to share that. That sounds it sounds awesome.
Mhm.
Um, there's like there's just so much more like we could cover here. Like we could talk for another hour. But I think this is a good kind of like natural point to wind it down. But I wonder about um, guilds and sort of how some of the element like the really specific crypto structures and elements that already exist are going to kind of fold into this or not. But we got plenty of time to cover all that stuff later. Um, but yeah, this has been cool, man, and thanks a lot for both your time. I think just to wrap it up here, Theeban, like for anyone who's watching this now or later, like what's the best way for them to kind of get involved at this point? Join up with the community and start
Mhm.
participating. What,
Right.
what,
I
what, what
mean,
would you suggest?
we got our Battle for Giostone Twitter. You can go follow that. We have updates all the time there. The Discord, we have a lot of people from our team who are constantly active there, answering questions. And if you have anything that you need to know, you can always go hop into our Discord and ask around. We also have our website that's up and running. Lots of information there. Everything's available.
Forum.
Heroes, our forum, exactly. Our forum's available too. That's something still, that we're going to be improving on. And once the time is right, we're going to be providing rewards and such over on those forums as well. So it's going to be great. So yeah, lots of different ways to be able to get in touch with Battle for Geostone.
Amazing. Yeah, that's the cool part of all of this is like it pays to be early. It pays to get involved and contribute early.
Mm-hmm.
So I would suggest doing that. If this is looks interesting to you, get in on it now because it's only going up from here, and I think the people that are earliest tend to be rewarded for like that kind of time, trust, and loyalty. So would definitely recommend it. But yeah, I think that's it. I think that's it for today. Again, thanks guys for the time. Thanks D-Man for walking us through that footage, man. That was really cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll be talking again soon about some other compelling GameFi topic, I'm sure. And yeah, you guys have a good rest of your day. Thanks for everyone for joining and making the time to check out the game. So appreciate everyone, and we'll talk to y'all soon.
Thanks.
See you
Appreciate it.
guys.